Hello, everyone. Thank you for stopping by and checking out my newest video to date. I have been reading from a couple of my books on my videos, and I just want to go to the next chapter in my book. It is written, My Prayer Journey into the Heart of God. The next chapter is called Growing Up. One of the major events in my life was the day I entered the school of nursing. At 18, I had never been away from home without my parents, and now I was to live in residence for 3 years. 52 other girls were in my class, and I knew almost none of them. I threw up before going to register for the course, and I never throw up unless I am very ill, but that day was the exception. The only reason I chose nursing was that several friends had chosen it as a career, but most of them went to different hospitals out of town, so they were not there to give me support. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I did not know the Lord yet, so had nowhere to turn for guidance, did not know about the power of prayer. As it turned out, I did enjoy nursing, especially the chronic care and geriatric wards. I loved the interaction with the elderly. My mother was 33 years old when I was born, and my father 40. Consequently, their friends were all their age and older. I was comfortable with them. Yes, I felt I had made the right decision. But then disaster, quote unquote, struck. The director of the school was a martinet. So she decided that I was not smiling enough, even went so far as to say I walked the corridors like a zombie. This was during an interview in her office. I was amazed that anyone could say such a thing about me. This completely contradicted what my patients indicated. Some of them called me sunshine. One patient refused to allow anyone else to change her dressings when I was on the ward. Supervisors gave me satisfactory reports about my work in progress. My marks were good, but I was still very shy and had been taught not to talk back to my elders. And so, devastated over the interview, I walked away having accepted a trial period in which to improve according to her standards, but I was devastated. As I look back now, I believe if I had spoken up for myself, not in anger, but in confidence, the situation may have had a different, but not necessarily better, outcome. I only wish I had known then how to pray. Eventually, I decided nursing was not for me. The stress of knowing I would be closely monitored by one particular head nurse, a terror on her ward to both patients and staff, was simply too great. I quit. I am not suggesting that quitting is the solution to every difficult situation, because it is not. But in this case, the Lord certainly used my decision to bring me into a place where I found Him. I took a commercial art course, moved to another city for a job, and eventually met the Lord through friends who took me to church. I have been blessed with many, many friends over the years that I would never have known had I continued to pursue nursing. Also, over the years, I developed a back problem and discovered that its source was partly a congenital issue, and which I am sure would have been severely aggravated by the lifting and standing I would have been required to do in a nursing career. Yet I have never regretted the time I spent at the hospital. No legitimate learning goes amiss in life, and we can always benefit even from the hardest circumstances we face if we allow them to make us better rather than bitter, deal with them, and then move on. I have already shared my first experience in public prayer in one of my other videos. The next hurdle that demanded courage happened under a different pastor. One night he approached me after Bible study and asked me to speak the next week. Wide-eyed, I informed him that I could never do such a thing. Some of my shyness was gone by this time, but little of my fear of doing anything in front of people. I did play the piano in church at that time, but speaking was an entirely different matter. The pastor suggested I go home and pray about it, and that is exactly what I did. Result, I spoke at the next prayer meeting. It was only to be a short exhortation, but 5 or 10 minutes did not sound very short to me at the time. Well, I decided that if the Lord was indeed asking me to do this, I would go all the way with it. Though it seems like sheer audacity now, I promised him that I would study the Word and pray about it, but I would take no notes with me. He would simply have to speak through me and remind me of what I was to share. It was my way of proving whether God was in this or not. Surprise! The Lord was not only in it, but he took me completely out of myself. I felt as if I were sitting next to myself and listening in. Prayer does work. God is faithful. We simply need to prove it to ourselves sometimes, and the Lord is gracious enough to give us the opportunity to do so. Sometime after this, I felt the Lord's call to teach. I had no idea how this would work out, but I read and studied the Word and waited. And I waited. And I waited some more. And of course, I prayed. Eventually, I was asked to teach at one of the youth meetings. Following this, there was a need for someone to teach a class of 8-year-olds who met on the same evening as the youth. I obeyed. I discovered, as much as I loved children, that this was not the area of my calling. Not that I did such a bad job of it. I just felt my call was to teach adults. But not yet. I still had to wait for the Lord to continue his work in my life before I would be ready for an adult class. Finally, the door opened, and at no time did I try to force this door, but I continued to pray and study. When we try to hurry the Lord or run ahead of him, we will meet with failure and disappointment, often a major setback, and possibly needless pain. But this was definitely God's time for me. For over 2 years, I taught the adult Bible class and loved every minute of it. By then, I was comfortable in front of people. The majority of those in the class were much older than me, both in physical and spiritual age. And there were even retired pastors there. Yet it did not intimidate me. I was doing what the Lord had called and prepared me to do. Prayer had brought me into an amazing place in God. Another challenge in my early days in that church was in the realm of church music. My friend, who had been the pianist, married and moved away. I had filled in a few times when she was gone for a Sunday, but I could not play by ear. So after I played the hymns from the book, I would have to leave the piano. Much of the music in that church was spontaneous and had to be played by ear. So I felt very inadequate. I found myself the sole pianist, that is, the only one willing to play. I needed help, and the only help of any value had to be from the Lord. Gradually, he taught me how to play the choruses, how to distinguish the key in which a person would begin to sing, and I was on my way. Later, I also inherited the position of pianist for our girls' ensemble. The Lord was stretching me, and I began to write music. The first thing I completed was a very ambitious project, a Christmas cantata. I cannot think now how I accomplished it, but the Lord was in it all the way. I had no training in music notation beyond what I learned in the lower grades. In fact, I never finished grade 6 piano, nor did I study theory or harmony, which comes in grade 8 music. I do not believe that I could do such a thing again. We sang that cantata in numerous places over the Christmas season that year with enthusiastic response. And a request was even made for us to repeat the performance in church on New Year's Eve. My one regret is that I never got a tape of it. My next musical challenge several years later came when the church needed another organist. I had tried to learn the organ before this, but to no avail. I could not coordinate 2 keyboards, the bass pedals, and volume pedal, to say nothing of the stops. Anyone who knows me will tell you that I am not exactly the world's most coordinated person, even in simpler matters. And this was just a small organ. Well, the pastor, an accomplished musician himself, determined that I would play that organ. So on 3 occasions, he came to the church with me, sat down beside me, and showed me what to do. And in short order, I was playing the organ for Sunday services as well as midweek Bible study and prayer meeting. Eventually, I even played a large church organ for a friend's wedding. The Lord was faithful and supplied me with what was needed in his perfect timing. I never became an expert, but what I learned was more than adequate for the need. All those little steps made possible what I had thought unattainable. but it was imperative that I take those steps. Had I skipped even one of them, the results would not have been the same. These were all small hurdles in the larger scheme of life. Here I will make a diversion and share with you in the next chapter a very difficult time in my life, one not so small or insignificant, that I believe did much to shape my prayer life into what it is today. I had been a Christian for several years, and when my life took a sudden nosedive and crashed into a deep valley, though I would never wish to go through anything like it again, I realized that the lessons I learned there have been invaluable to the intercessory ministry into which the Lord has led me. As you, the following excerpt will be from my book, Shadows in My Valley, and you will see in this why prayer has become so important a part of my life. I'm going to make you wait till the next video to hear that reading. I hope you have enjoyed this. I hope you will share it with your friends, share it on your social media, and I hope you will come back to hear the next. And if you haven't listened to the ones previous to this, then I hope you will go back and look at those as well so that you will get the earlier chapters in the book. And again, I thank you for stopping by. If you're interested to go to my blog, it's http:// that's DIANE -hyphen Stephenson, STEPHENSON.com. And you can find my articles there. You can find my other videos there. You can find all of my books there and read about them. And there are links there to the Amazon pages where you can find them to purchase them. So I hope you have a wonderful day and God bless you all. Bye for now.